today. We have Anna Mészáros, our extension agent for Palm Beach County, present her work growing vegetables in South Florida, successes and challenges in the winter vegetable capital of the US. So with that, Anna, my pleasure to have you present.
Thank you, Django. Oh, all right, so thank you again for the invitation, and I'm glad to be part of this seminar series at the Everglades Research and Education Center. And so, yeah, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Anna Mészáros, again, the vegetable extension agent in Palm Beach County. And today I'm going to talk about vegetable production in Palm Beach County, highlighting some of the main vegetable crops and also some of the main challenges that growers face. You will see that these challenges are more or less correspond with my extension program areas. Right. So, but before I go further, I will say a few words about my background because I think it's important to know where I'm coming from and how I got here. So I was born and raised in Hungary. I got my master's degree in entomology and crop protection from the University of Horticulture in Budapest. And I had an opportunity to do a multiple internship studying abroad in France, studying predatory mites and biological control. And I got an additional degree in crop protection in France. And this is where actually I met my husband, Julian Birzlenti. In 2005, we moved to the United States, and I was working as a research and extension associate on a variety of things at Louisiana State University at the Department of Entomology. And I had a chance to work on rice, sugarcane, insects, and so many things, learn more about applied research and extension. I had the chance to work with growers, crop consultants, extension agents, and then so many people. So a few years later, in 2012, I had the opportunity to work with one of the largest and most respected private research and crop consulting company in central Louisiana. So I left academia and went to the private sector, the private industry, and I was able to learn more about agriculture from a different perspective, learn more about product development, had a chance to test many, many pesticides before they become available to the public, to the growers. And I worked on all the row crops that we grow over there, corn, soybean, sorghum, sugarcane, rice, everything basically. I became a member of the National Alliance of Independent Crop Consultants, which allowed me to connect more with the industry, with the crop consultants, and also with growers. And I'm chairing the Research and Education Committee of this association, which is a great opportunity for professional development. So in 2016, we moved to Florida. And I started to work with Glades Crop Care, another great and well-respected crop consulting and research company here in Florida. So I worked with Charlie and Madeline Mellinger. And moving from Louisiana to Florida was a big change. And I'm not talking about the food or the hurricanes. I'm talking about moving from row crops to vegetables. Because the concept of my work was still the same, but the system was completely different. Fresh production, something that you eat fresh. If you just think about it, while, for example, on soybean, you miss one application or something, one application of insecticide, you can maybe get away with it. But if you miss one application on tomato or sweet corn, you might lose the whole crop. So I just started to understand the complexity of the vegetable production when I got here in Florida. And I have not even thought about food safety yet. So in 2021, I went back to academia and I joined University of Florida UFIFAS as the commercial vegetable extension agent in Palm Beach County. And so why I told all the stories and my past and everything, because involvement with crop consultants and private research was really important. And I believe that if you want to be a good extension agent, you need to understand the whole concept and understand different aspects of the production system as well. So what extension really means? We often say that extension extends the science-based information to the clientele, but how? There is one really important component or tool that we often don't talk about much or not talk about enough. It's communication. Communication and consequently collaboration. So without communication, without collaboration, extension cannot exist. This is how I say it. This is how I believe it. I believe that communication is the key for everything among these groups, and because everything is connected, everything needs to be connected. Communication is the key for true collaboration and to build professional relationships and trust. And without true communication, there is no true collaboration. And without communication, there is no extension. So if you just think about it, if there is one of these communication way for some reason doesn't work, let's say that my researchers cannot communicate with the growers, we have to find another way, another route to go to that grower, and that must be or can be extension. Same thing happens if you don't have the great communication with your crop consultants. Maybe through extension can you find a way, and then we'll be able to find a solution to the problem. So let's back to business, go back to Palm Beach County Extension. So there are three of us here, ag agents. You know, Matt Van Bilden, you probably saw his seminar not long ago. He's the sugarcane and rice extension agent. And we have Jenna Curtis. She is our new ag safety extension agent who took Frank Dow's position. And I'm responsible for all the commercial grown vegetable production. So focusing just back to Palm Beach County, we produces field and vegetable crops on nearly 400, almost a 500,000 acre. And the value of these crops exceed $300 million annually. We often call ourselves winter vegetable capital of the United States. Some might argue that it's Arizona, Yuma area, or even California, but we are from Florida, so let's just be proud of it. I often say that fresh green beans or sweet corn that you consume or you eat at your Thanksgiving table, or our Christmas table is probably coming from here. Palm Beach County, if you look at your grocery store, you can find a bunch of local product freshly produced here right this time of the year. So where are we growing all these vegetables and what we are growing? I like to kind of separate and then divide Palm Beach County into three growing areas. The biggest one here is the Everglades agriculture area, about 400,000 acres on organic soil. And then you have this nice piece of land, the ag reserve area on mineral soil on the East Coast. And then between the two, it's called I call it Loxahatchee area. It's again in on sandy soil. So the soil often determines the crop that is grown in it. And if you look at the EAA, is mainly sugarcane, as you know, for sure. And then leafy vegetables, lettuce, romaine, parsley, celery, cabbage, and then radish, sweet corn, snap bean. If you go to the East Coast on sandy soil, it's mainly high-value fruiting vegetables like pepper, tomato, cucumber, squash, and eggplant. And then between the two, you have this area that is a little bit of everything except maybe leafy vegetables. So just for fun, why we can do this, why we can grow all these crops, because the cold fronts always stops in Orlando, right? But no, without joke, South Florida climate is ideal for winter vegetable production. And why? Because we are right down here. When everybody else freezing their things, we are gonna have fun in South Florida. But don't get me wrong, cold weather can go further south than Orlando, and it can damage the crops seriously. But usually, while the rest of the country is under the snow, we harvest the best sweet corn in the world. Palm Beach County grows more fresh corn more fresh sweet corn than any other county in the United States, contributing significantly to the fact that Florida is the first in the nation in fresh sweet corn production. California is the second one now. So we are a major producer of snap bean, along with Henry County, Miami-Dade County, and all these three regions together with Palm Beach County, we make up to 75% of production of Florida, which is amazing. Palm Beach County leads Florida, and Florida leads the nation in fresh pepper production as well. So we are living in a special place. We have this, we produce a nice amount of spring mixes too, and particularly this company, they are from Canada. So what they do, they come here down to the south, and they grow spring mixes during the winter time. And then after May or at the end of the spring, they go back, they went up to Canada when the environmental conditions are favorable to grow these crops, and then they grow spring mixes up there. We are first in the state and third in the nation as far as lettuce production. So you got here a nice romaine field, and also you got some nice icebergs. beautiful. We grow a significant acreages of radish to also celery. Palm Beach County leads the state production and produce significant amount of celery. And we are lucky to have the largest celery producer in our neighborhood just down the road. And as you know, most of these vegetables are often served as rotational crops to the sugarcane, and some of them they have their own designated area too. So I mentioned favorable climate for production, but also for pest development. So we have high insect, we have high disease and weed pressures, and then growers face pest management challenges on a daily basis because of it. And also being close to a port of entry in Palm Beach County or in South Florida, agriculture is threatened by introduction of invasive species. So we had to deal with those too. That's why collaboration among stakeholders are always necessary to find a solution. So based on this, I developed my 3 main extension program areas: improving integrated pest management for profitable and sustainable commercial vegetable production, the special focus on invasive or emerging pest issues. Also BMPs focusing on water and crop fertilization to optimize yield and increase knowledge and adoption of best food safety practices. So to help growers and crop consultants to get the latest science-based information, what we do, we often hold meetings and workshops, and most of my extension meetings are held here at the Everglades Research and Education Center. And I'm collaborating with many of you, many of research faculty here, and also at the, and also not just at this research station, but also at GCREC, also at UFIFAS-EvergladesREC, and also at the Tropical Research and Education Center. And not just with faculties, but also when I try to involve interns, students, and postdocs as well. So as you know, we are offering a variety of educational programs. We have classroom setting, we have field days, but most importantly, we do on-farm consultations too. And if I don't know something, I am lucky enough to find a specialist here, and I will try to bring them with me to the field so we can figure out the problem altogether. So here, just a few programs that we offer here or in the area. I do lettuce advisory committee meeting twice a year when you have all the main lettuce producers at these meetings. We are trying to do an independent leafy vegetable meeting here in the EAA. The sweet corn management workshops in the past 2 to 3 years were so popular that it's gonna probably become a small conference. The next one is coming up in January 17. We do snap bean conference every other year, a tomato conference with the collaboration with Henry County Extension. We are probably going to have a fruiting vegetable meeting, which was basically triggered with this latest outbreak of Thrips parvispinus. We can do it in rotation with the Ag Reserve or even with UFIFAS-EvergladesREC. And we also do some other training like the first detector training because of these invasive species that I just talked about. And then the weed ID management and spray spot, spray rodeo that we are doing in collaboration with Metvan Mill and Sugarcane and Rice Extension Agent. And these meetings usually sponsored by the industry, so we can offer them for free to the attendees. And we are really grateful for their support. We also providing CEUs during this education event. And these CEUs are really important to professional crop consultants and pesticide applicators who need to maintain their license so they can apply pesticide lawfully and so the crop can grow successfully. And we also often record these meetings when we can, and then try to post it online. And then here you can see people can, if they were not able to see the original meeting, they can do a pre-test, watch the meeting, and they can always do a post-test. And then they can earn CEUs if they want to. Now I'm going to talk about those invasive species. I, as an extension agent, had to deal with the first place. So first, Megalothrips uscitatus, the Asian bean thrips. Actually, my involvement with this invasive thrips started when I was still working as a researcher with Glades Crop Care. So in January 2020, significant damage was recorded in a small young snap bean field down in Miami-Dade County, right here. You can see the damage on the leaves, which was really unusual. It was an early damage on these young snap beans, and it was a mystery what we found here. So again, Field Scout of Glades Crop Care Inc. Often we have field scouts who are doing the first detections because they are in the field and they are the boots on the ground. They detect these weird things first. So anyway, the scout reported this heavy damage on the young snap bean plants, and I was involved with the ID process and also with some very early insecticide work to control this trips. So March 2020, when FDAX confirmed all the ID and sent out a pest alert, and they also included some detailed information and started to do some preliminary survey that later UFIFAS extension continued. I thought that I had a little video here, but maybe not. To unclick this. Yeah. So I'm just showing the trips which caused this huge problem in South Florida beans, and you get a really nice distinctive pattern on the back. And this was a relatively large trip, so it was really easy to see and detect afterward. Here you can see the damage that it can cause on the leaves itself and on the small plants, and also feeding injury on the pods. So you can imagine the actual damage that it caused to the growers. Whenever we have an invasive species show up, we have to act quickly. The growers need a response basically yesterday. So when we are lucky, we can set up a field trial, and at the same time, we can do some bioassay studies in the lab. These bioassay studies were done with Dr. Hugh Smith and his postdoc Bruno Rosito up in UFIFAS GCREC. And when I was already familiar with this insect, actually, we were able to conduct an on-farm test when I joined UFIFAS extension. So again, that was a collaboration between grower, crop consultant, and UFIFAS personnel. And what we saw that was great because it was pretty much matching what we saw in the lab. Radiant and Lenate were working the best alone or alternation, which corresponded with the lab results. So a few years later, we are still keep an eye on this insect, but it seems that the Asian bean thrips, it became somewhat a localized issue because it's an invasive tropical thrips. So that's why probably now it's more an issue in Miami-Dade County and not really in Palm Beach County. And why this was important issue? Because like I mentioned, Florida snap bean ranks first in the US production, and Miami-Dade, Palm Beach County, and Southwest Florida counties make up to 75% of Florida production. That was a really big deal when this trip showed up and everybody got scared. So, but sometimes we have to deal with pests that we have no idea what they were. We never seen this before. That was the case in with Listronotus sparsus, which is an emerging weevil pest in parsley and celery. And so we don't really know that, you have an insect problem and emerges out from nowhere what to do with it. So after a crop consultant contacted Dr. Julian Bueslen about an unusual feeding injury on parsley and celery, we went out and visit. This is when I was talking about all this field visit, field consultation. They are really, very important. And this is what we saw: reduced vigor, and then feeding injury on the root, on parsley. And then we saw pretty much the same thing on celery. Again, these larvae bored into the stalk and then caused injury to celery. And which really reminded us feeding injury caused by the carrot weevil, which is a pest of carrot and celery up in the north, but we never seen them here and they have never been reported in the south. So what we had to do, we had to investigate. We had to figure out what we were dealing with, and we had to reply to the grower how they can deal with it later. So finally, it took us some time because you had to collect the larvae to be able to rear the adult first, and then you can send it to identification. Nobody could tell us at UF, nobody could really tell us at FDAX DPI what insect we were dealing with. We had to send it, or actually FDAX DPI send it to Canada to a taxonomist. We're able to figure out that that was a weevil related to carrot weevil, a relatively widespread species, a semi-aquatic weevil, but it has never been reported as a pest here on any crops. So what we had to do, we had to study a little bit more, study the biology, put out a test, look at the injury, and then the feeding habits, and then everything all together. And we learned a lot. I don't have time to go into all the details, but we did a lot of efficacy trial work, and that was, again, a collaboration with Julian Bill, who did a lot of applied work. And then we did a lot of samplings and a lot of processing, and we are still doing it. Basically, we conducted 10 trials, a variety of different application methods, a variety of insecticide at different rates to provide an alternative and more environmental option to Vidate, because Vidate was one of the insecticide that they used in celery that provided a nice option, nice control. So what we found at the very end, or until today in parsley, that we had Xyrel or diamond and rhymon at high rate who produced or reduced infestation level in parsley. In celery, again, Xyrel and rhymon were somewhat similar, showed the same trend, but Vidate was still probably the best and associated with the lowest injury and infestation. The problem is that diamond and rhymons are not registered for use in parsley and celery, so that's why we are working with IR4 to support this registration effort. And then we had some other options that we were looking at, some soil drench application, Verimark, Platinum, Durivo, that controlled really well up to more than 5 weeks in parsley, this pest. So what were our impacts? Identification skills for this we will have increased. Now the growers and now the crop consultants, they know what we were dealing with. The knowledge of the biology increased, which help us to time application and know more about the insects. So basically, stakeholders managing nearly 2,000 acres of celery and parsley now, they know about this insect and they rely on and they apply recommended insecticide or intend to apply recommended insecticide for this pest, thanks to our research and extension work, which is amazing. And I think we're going to see that little thing coming out of the stalk. Here you go. All right. So another thing, most devastating invasive pest I had to deal with in the past 3 years during my work, that was Thrips parvispinus. So new invasive thrips impacting pepper and ornamental production in South Florida. Julien Beuzlin and Dr. Defenmu were all participated in the early research and extension effort following its first detection. So we're really upfront with this pest. First, just a quick timeline, it was first detected in the continental US in Central Florida in 2020. And by 2022, made it down to Miami-Dade County, ornamentals, a little bit of first in ornamentals. And then it made it back to Palm Beach County, again, ornamental hedge. And then by 2022, November, a crop consultant, first detector, they reported heavy damage in a pepper field. And that was actually the first record of an established population of vegetable field in Florida, here in our county. And we were right here. Perfect place to work on something that you don't know. All right, so what we saw, the entire field was infested, heavily infested, young, older plants. You could see this injury. It reminded us to heavy broad mite injury. So just imagine that the grower grows out, they don't really know what they are dealing with. They are treating this as broad mite for pesticide that they are not working for the thrips, basically. So what we were doing here at the third place, this was really important. You can see the thrips here. You can see with the naked eye on the flowers. You can see the damage, what it can cause on the peppers, on the small and the pepper. It's serious issue. This is just a few points about identification. I'm not going into that detail now. You can see the female and you can see the male. They are different. They have different patterns, but you need to know your thrips. You need to know the ID. Identification is crucial for good control methods. So what we had to do, identify all the other vegetable hosts, because we didn't know anything about these thrips beside what we found in the literature. So what we saw, we found we all know that it can impact pepper really badly, not just bell pepper, but other pepper types too. We found it on cucumber. Luckily, it didn't damage much on the cucumber fruit itself. We found it on squash, on zucchini, and also on eggplants. And also we figured it out that when the pepper harvested, usually growers cut those peppers and then sometimes they regrow. And then these trips, it goes back and then can infest these pepper plants again. And then it can infest the subsequent crop, which sometimes it's a squash or cucumber. So we all learned that how, because we were out weekly with Diffin and his crew and sampling everything every single week. We put out we put out pen traps, we put out sticky traps, we were sampling leaves and flowers and everything. We wanted to learn more about this pest. Why? Because we needed to help the growers because they were desperate. They lost close to $4 million in this area, or even more, that they don't want to even talk about it. Some pepper growers quit growing peppers because of this pest. So we were really on the front line of this whole thing, and we really had to help. So based on all these samplings that we did the past year, we developed a scouting little fact sheet that we try to distribute everywhere where the trips is still not there, so they can scout and they can get a little bit ahead of the game. And then we did a bunch of trainings and presentations, so we try to get out of the word to the industry. And then the most important, the insecticide trials. Just go back. Because that was our final objective, that we had to give some optional insecticide and control option to the grower. We conducted all our insecticide trial on grower fields, and then this is the thing when the head grower, Steve Bedner, is down on his knees and then helping out to plant those pepper plants. He's gonna probably kill me for this picture, but this is an awesome. That shows collaboration, that shows trust, and that shows you know, just the ideal work together. And then it's not just him; it's his crop consultant too. And then it was really, they helped us because they you know, they somewhat needed us. We needed each other. We conducted a test not just on pepper, but also on cucumber, because we found these strips on cucumber. We more or less used the same setting, the same application, the same treatments. We looked at radiant because that had probably the most potential to do something with these strips. The timing was very important. The number of applications were important, but there was some hope because at the end of the day, all the three treatments decreased the 70 to 100% the Thrips parvispinus adults on the terminal leaves. And then we saw a similar pattern on the larvae as well. So that was a good news, but it's not everything. We have to do more. This is just a nice picture showing the three different treatments. And then the one that didn't get treated, you see the devastation and you see how much damage it caused. So again, we have to do more. We keep continuing monitoring. We need to evaluate conventional and biological insecticide as well. Also different treatments, different methods, and we need to look at the vegetable host plant range as well, and looking at other hosts and looking at preference too, and within pepper types also. So what was our impact? Like I mentioned that our program was also the first, really first, to assist with management of Thrips parvispinus, which was an estimated $4 million loss for Palm Beach County pepper growers in 2022. Since fall of 2023, we have conducted on-farm Thrips population monitoring, as I mentioned, insecticide evaluations, two really good, nice trials in Eastern Palm Beach County, where Thrips parvispinus was the worst and problematic. And these pepper growers now rely on our recommendations to improve their scouting, and also a control program, which has resulted in a minimal loss this past year. So I'm optimistic. We need to work more, but I'm pretty optimistic about what's coming. So there are not just insects that can devastate vegetable crops. We had to deal with some plant diseases as well. We had to deal with the first record of Fusarium oxysporum API, race 4. Which was completely new to Florida celery. This is how it looked like. We were not happy about it. We had to deal with how to identify this and what was the right way as far as regulations. We had to communicate well with the regulatory agencies, with the grower, and then luckily we just got Katya Xavier at that time to our team. So she took over with Larissa this project, and I think we are on the right path as far as education, as far as monitoring, crop rotation, and inoculum concentration studies. So, and actually, I think we just published that little thing for them. As far as Eddie's. So anyway, the other thing, growing lettuce in a controlled environment. This is something, or not just lettuce, but vegetables. It's growing in Palm Beach County, and surprisingly, growing even more than I would have thought a few years ago. So all these controlled or semi-controlled environment can be challenging. The number of labeled pesticides they can use are extremely limited. So they rely on more manipulating the environment, lowering the humidity, increasing plant spacing to have the airflow, or to decrease favorable environmental conditions for disease development. And the other thing that they can rely on, this is how Dr. Sandhya can be in the picture with the lettuce breeding program, because they have really big problem of Cercospora leaf spot. So hopefully we are gonna come up something soon in the pipeline that we can have these growers too, because this is not how you wanna see your lettuce in the grocery store, sure. And how we communicate all this, because I mentioned communication. This is the newsletter what we have right now. This newsletter was originally initiated by Gene McAvoy. We just carried on his original idea, tweaked it a little bit, make it probably a little bit better, more user-friendly, an online version, a nice format we put to it with Craig Fry and his associate. So what we are doing, we are monitoring population dynamics of over 30 pests and diseases during the South Florida vegetable production season. And we are asking our contributors who are crop scouts, consultants, research and extension people to contribute to this hotline. Like I mentioned, we distribute this every 3 weeks via email, and we report about 4 to 5 different regions. You can see them here. Central Florida, Southwest Florida, EAA, East Coast, and Homestead. And then these dots with the yellow, red, and orange, they indicate if the particular pest population is increasing or decreasing, for example. So we found this information to be very useful to the growers because they can kind of prepare to certain pest pressure in their area. The last 2 things that I would talk to quickly about, that's BMPs and food safety. So as a member of the Florida Soil Moisture Sensor Network, I introduced or tried to introduce the use of soil moisture sensors to vegetable growers so they can improve irrigation practices and reduce the use of irrigation water accordingly. We did a few trials with Duda and VegPro, tried to optimize sensors on mock soil, but it was really challenging. So I'm hoping with the new EREC soil and water scientists, we can do a better job and we can follow up on these. And also, I extended this program. So yeah, that was on mock soil. And then we tried to extend this program on the sandy soil on fruiting vegetables such as pepper and cucumbers. So the ultimate goal with this, develop an effective irrigation management strategies by monitoring the irrigation water supply, the soil moisture, which will conserve water and enhance crop water and nutrient use efficiency. So we can, it will help eventually with irrigation timing and decision making to the growers. Oh yeah, this is how we install these 2 feet deep soil moisture sensors. All right. So the other thing, I am talking about improve BMPs focusing on crop fertilization to optimize yield. I am a PI representing Palm Beach County for the Florida state-funded grant focusing on re-evaluating and optimizing phosphorus fertilization for snap bean production on sandy soil. So this is a collaboration with UFIFAS-EvergladesREC BMP team led by Dr. Shukla. And we've been conducting, this is our 3rd year, I believe, large scale on-farm trials. And this was right here in Palm Beach County. I'm super proud of it because that was a huge collaboration. Again, this is a 45-acre trial with Hundley Farms. So that's combined, it's harvesting eventually 1 plot or 1 part of a plot. So just imagine how big it was. We had to do like a huge calibration of these Air Max fertilizer machine. It was challenging. It required lots of coordination. It required dedication, not just from our team, but from the growers as well. And then from the packing house personnel, because we brought everything to yield. And I believe in 2023, that was the only trial that showed without doubt significant evidence that the current fertilizer recommendation needs to be updated. All right, last but not the, probably the most important thing, or I don't know, all things are important, food safety. Produce Safety Alliance trainings. I'm collaborating with the PSA group. Actually, I'm teaching some of the modules for these trainings. We have one online, one in-person training per year in Palm Beach County and several online that are available to the growers. We do these OFRR reviews with growers, which is like an on-farm readiness review. We have usually an FDAX representative and the food safety extension agent and the local extension agent, which was me in this case, and who participate in this review with the growers per grower request. So this review, it helps them to prepare for an actual audit, which is really useful. We go at it, you know, it's no requirement, no obligation. It's they sign up voluntarily, and we go out there and we help them to pass the audit. Also, we do lately, unfortunately, fortunately, local food safety meetings to address emerging local issues. We had a few lately in the EAA, we had a few out in the Ag Reserve, so we try to take care of both of the clienteles because they are a little different. And the biggest help is Dr. Michelle Deinluck from she is a food safety specialist, and also the other state specialized county agent, food safety county agent, Taylor O'Bannon. And also lately I joined the Florida Fruit and Vegetable Association Food Safety Committee to get more up to date about all these issues. And then finally, I mean, this is probably the most important, like I said, everything is important, youth education. We are involved, not just me, but lots of faculty here, lots of students and postdocs, and they are all willing to help. And that was, I was really proud of what happened a few months ago because one of my committee member, Krista Besor, asked me to help organizing a little event, more hands-on training in school. And I was able to gather everybody together, and I thank everybody really for this thing, what we were able to achieve. These kids were able to investigate. They played like, what if they were scientists? They tried to figure out what the problem was. They tried to investigate. And I think all of us had a lot of fun. A lot of us learned a lot how to communicate with kids, because it's not the same when you talk to a grower when you talk to a 10 or 11-year-old, right? So there's the next generation. So that's why we are here too. And I think with this, oh, I like to put this picture up, and I could go every day to Publix or any other grocery store and then just be proud of all these things that I know these growers, and I know these growers who grow these things. So that's a privilege to be here, I think, in South Florida and know all these people and all the growers we are working with, and then we can eat their produce. So with that, I missed a lot of people. I would like to thank all the specialists I'm working with or I interacted with to help me to my program and to have the growers, and all my extension agent colleagues who kind of involved with my program, and people from FDAX DPI. They are always super helpful. They are scared of me because I always find something new, some devastating here in South Florida. And all the people who helped me, from all the labs, because like Matt mentioned, we are one-man show. We don't have people, so we rely on you, and hopefully you rely a little bit on us too. And again, all the crop consultants, they are always the first people to find things in the field, and then with good communication, we are able to work together and then get things done. And also some of the works were funded by FDAX, Specialty Crop Block Grant, and then luckily with IR4, we are able to help and then add something new to the insecticide palette. I don't know if it's an English word, but to have the growers, to have the community. And with that, thank you. Thank you for being here. And then if you have any questions, I'm here. I would be glad to answer.
Very informative, captivating presentation. Do we have any questions on the online? Any folks online, Zoom, if you want to unmute yourself, ask a question or type it in. Otherwise, if there are folks in the room that have any questions.
This is Ron Rice. I can ask a question.
Go ahead, Ron.
Hi, Anna. That was a really great seminar, very detailed. You've done so much here in the past 3 years. And with that in mind, I was just curious, as this work moves forward, do you have more field trials that are envisioned for looking at control measures on these various insects or pathogens, or more field trials for the phosphorus efficiency studies? I was just wondering what's coming down the road here this next year, and if you're going to be able to fit it all in.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. Thank you for attending and asking the question. So every single work is ongoing. We are going to have more insecticide trials defining rates and then methods, and for Thrips parvispinus, like I mentioned, we have to look at different other different insecticides as well. Also, we get funded, and then we are going to plant, I think today, tomorrow, celery trial on the research station to look at again the weevil control. And as far as for the fertilization trial, it's always a little difficult because this agency funds every year. So it's unfortunate it's not a continued funding, but we are applied again for another year. And then how things are going and looking at right now, I think we are gonna get it again. So and there is always something new. You don't know if tomorrow I'm gonna go out in the field and find a new Thrips. Probably have to deal with that too. So. But we have multiple grants and money coming in, so we are grateful for that, and we are going to keep working on other trials too.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Sandoya asks, do you see any new disease tendency in vegetables as you see for insects?
Any new disease tendencies in vegetables you see for insects? I'm not sure. It depends. Everything depends, I think, on environmental conditions. There are years when we see a little bit of more, like for example, for the lettuce downy mildew, we almost can count on that it's going to happen when the conditions are right. How I see it, maybe. It's not the diseases, but maybe we have a little bit of a shortened planting window for certain vegetables, because maybe the summers are getting a little longer, and then maybe we have less time to plant these vegetables. And then with the more, maybe with the warmer weather, you are going to have a little bit more of disease, but I haven't seen it exactly just yet. I don't know if it answered your questions. I know I was humbling a little bit. And then there is another thing. Yeah, I got a little hint from the audience of, we are looking at for INS3. It's gonna be interesting to see if it's going to be a problem here in our lettuce industry.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. I was quite surprised actually by the mass of work you guys have done in collaboration with other faculties. And I just have one question. Did you get any requests from the growers about any fertilizer recommendation rate? I know Dr. McRae have done a lot of work in regard to sugarcane, but I didn't know if he really worked on the vegetables. So is there any request from the growers about fertilizer recommendation for this vegetables you are working on?
Yes, I think so. And since we are, we have lettuce growers, and I think that is an ongoing grant, and maybe Django can comment on it. I think you guys started something on a small scale first, but it might get a little bigger later. And also, I believe sweet corn is going to get looked at again, because it's been a long time that it wasn't revised. We have advisory committee for the research station, and I think it was requested to. So there are going to be more opportunities on fertilizer work. I think so.
Any other questions? Anyone? And I guess I have one question here. All this work, the research or even extension information that y'all are generating, how do you see the funding side of things? Do you think as an extension agent, you are spending, a lot of time into getting these funds to do this? How is the funding mechanism with extension?
That's a mystery. So
Give it a shot.
we have, I mean, just like you guys, we have to go after fundings. Or how I feel kind of lucky that I can collaborate with you. So if you look at all these work, we had just awarded 1, 2, 3 grants with DIFN for studying Thrips parvispinus, and I have a little piece of it. They are really generous. They included me, but at the same time, I believe that you have to have an extension agent on this competitive grant, so you can put an extra value to your work, that extension work, and not just extension work. Sometimes we can even contribute more than extension, writing a publication or do a meeting. So the other part of it. Other fundings, I always appreciate the industry whenever I do a big meeting and then they sponsor my meetings, but it's an extra work. That's an extra work because you have to reach out to them, you have to ask them, it's time is money, it's not coming. It's not something that is established. And this is the thing that I think that in vegetable production, we don't have a vegetable committee that could review research project. And then, so we don't have that support that I think rice or sugar industry already has. So if there is an opportunity, I would like to establish that and then talk to the growers if we can have any extra support from the grower community. But besides that, again, I'm a one-man show, just like Matt, and we rely on you, and then we appreciate all the help, if it's a time or if it's a people help or an actual money. But yeah, money doesn't come easy.
Thank you.
Thank you.